Hey everybody, welcome back to the One Step Better Business Podcast. I'm Mike Shaeffer, and with me as always is the lovely Matthew Patrick. How's it going, Matt?
I feel lovely today. Thanks, Mike.
Matty P. Appreciate you joining us. Today is going to be a fun topic. This whole thing that we call Patrick Accounting and Works has been around for a little bit over 20 years now, which is just showing how old you are. And along those years, we've made a couple of mistakes. And so today we're going to talk about hindsight and looking back and learning from the things that we've screwed up in history. And hopefully there'll be some nuggets of wisdom that come out of this that can be applicable to other people. So that's our goal for today. But before we get into the meat of our conversation, we always got to start with something a little more lighthearted. And so Matthew Patrick, question of the day is, would you rather have a hamburger with a thin patty or a thick patty?
Ooh, that's a good one. Probably, oh God, that's a tough question. I'd say probably thick patty. I like a good homemade burger, but I'm not too proud to, do a couple thin patties on the same burger. It's fine. You? I like, I think is what we're basically determined.
I don't know if I've ever seen you struggle so hard over answering your question.
High quick start, high quick decision maker.
I think you said the magic word there. It's not one thin patty versus one thick patty. It's got to be like one thick patty versus two thin patties. And if that's my option, I'm going to pick the two thin patties. Like a smash burger that's kind of crispy and I like that. Where do you think the best burger is?
In Memphis, I
don't know if we're allowed to say that. I don't know if we could say the best burger in Memphis. We have too many restaurants that we work with.
I like Patrick's Burger the best. Their bread is really good. Gotta love the curly fries to go with it. It's all perfect. Like it's a good combination. There's a lot of. I'm not too proud. Five Guys, McDonald's is a good burger. I'm not too picky.
Yeah. Wow.
There's nothing wrong with a quarter pounder with cheese. Let's be honest. It's pretty good.
I think Mike Miller just said, wait, you just said I prefer Patrick's and McDonald's. He's like, ooh.
Dude, I think he has McDonald's too.
Yeah.
Mike, I'm sure you've had Mike Miller. I'm sure you've had a McDonald's burger before.
Oh man, that's so funny. If you're making a burger at home, what do you put on it?
Oh, first of all, we kind of like break up sour cream and onion chips and mix it in there with it. So it's so it holds a little more consistency.
Maybe you didn't hear my question. I said, if you're making a burger at home.
Yeah. So I got to have a little bonding agent for the meat.
Gotta be kidding me.
Right? Yeah. You gotta do that. Garlic, a little garlic salt, garlic powder, some onion salt and powder. You gotta have a good mix. And then I'm simple, I could do ketchup and sriracha and cheese and I'm good.
Oh, wow.
That's my go-to.
Yeah. That's interesting.
I don't do any veggies. I eat like a 12-year-old boy. So
yeah, I have never heard anybody say that they grind up chips and put it in their, like in the meat really to make the patty.
Yeah, you got to have something to bond it together.
I actually don't need anything to bond the ground beef to the ground beef. It's actually does it on its own. So
yeah.
Wow, that's interesting. Wow.
Yeah.
I feel like I learned something today. All right.
Matt doesn't know how to make a burger. Is what you learned,
I learned that hindsight says I should have never asked how Matt makes his burgers at home. Mike. Yeah. And so that's the one thing that I learned looking back today. Let's talk about the things that you've learned looking back. So like I said, we've been around for a little bit over 20 years now, and I'm sure there's, you could point to countless mistakes and things that we wish we could have done different and better along the way. I don't want to start with the mistakes. Instead, I want to start with this. 20 years into this journey, at any point, did you think this is where you were going to be?
Oh, God, no, absolutely never. I've said this before. If I would have just kind of replaced my salary, that was my first goal for a long time. To think about where we are now, I never imagined this, so I never had a vision for what this was. It's been an amazing ride. I immediately think of where I was at the 5 year mark or the 10 year mark, and where I'm at now. And I'm just like, what did I lead this path to get here, or was this just, you know, God's free will? Is kind of where I think about it, because I don't think I had much hand in other than being consistent with what we want to be. And I've been very, very, very lucky to have awesome people around me that took on more responsibility and ownership and guidance. And I, listened to everybody I possibly could who was more successful than I am, and just trying to steal and borrow as much of their stuff as possible to kind of piece my thing together. I will say, some of my strengths are that I am not afraid to make a mistake. And when I recognize one, I'm okay with, all right, cut it off. It's been known. So I would say that's probably been one of my strengths in this whole thing, is going, I'm going to try a bunch of stuff, and that's okay.
So, Matt, as you think back, in those early days, what are some of the things that you wish you could go back and do differently?
I first start with hiring. I I don't know if it was budget or desperation. I didn't really have a clean process for hiring people. I'm a terrible interviewer. I didn't have anybody else to interview but me. And so if I liked them, I hired them, even if they weren't the right fit for the role I was trying to fill. I probably didn't have defined enough roles. I think through the biggest mistakes, I'd say probably were accepting work that I probably shouldn't have accepted because I was early on and trying to pay bills, and I probably said yes to too much stuff. And I didn't really have the right people in a defined seat. And so I think back from the early on, it was, who can I afford that's willing to show up here every day? And they were great. The people I had were fantastic for what I needed them to be at the time. But it held us back quite a bit. I just didn't know any different.
Do you think that those are the things that, like, you have as a business owner, you have to go through some of those pains in order to really learn it? Because let's pretend like you're a brand new business owner. You're Matt Patrick 20 years ago. You're listening to this podcast. I'm sure you're probably thinking like, well, yeah, but I could probably figure that out. I could probably do that. Do you think that those kinds of issues are things that you have to go through to know, all right, I got to learn my lesson? Or
I mean, I do think it's a little bit of, I have to go through that growing pain of, what do I really sell and what should I be selling? Um, if you bought a franchise, it's different, but like starting a business from scratch, be it if you decide to open a pool service business or a restaurant or an accounting firm, I think it's the same logic. It's what should we be doing right here? What should we be selling? If I'm a pool service guy and I want to have weekly customers, the first guy that needs his liner replaced, is that me doing it, or should I be looking to outsource that work? Do I have the capabilities to do the work? I think it's very similar to that logic. In the beginning, I was willing to do anything that I thought I could do, even if it didn't make sense, because I looked at it as the dollars, not the work. And I also didn't have anybody to really feel like I was leveraging the work down to other than myself. And I was like, well, I can do that work and I can make money doing it. I'll do it. That wasn't a scalable model.
yeah, so into that, let's talk through what is the challenge? What's the problem with saying, in the arena that I operate in, if business comes along, I'm going to say yes to it.
Well, the first one is the trade off. It's the, what should I be doing instead of the thing that I'm now doing? Am I the best person to do that work? I look at this from a kind of it's the same guy that, the guy that comes to your house that says, hey, I can fix your fence. Oh, I also can fix this other thing. And he doesn't even have the tools to do that job. He can do it, but he shouldn't be doing it. I think, that opportunity cost of what I should have been doing is, okay, trying to find more customers that fit what I know we can do really, really well at a profitable rate, knowing that the next one that I find is going to be more valuable to me in the long run than the short-sightedness of saying yes to that project. On the people side, I feel like I was just looking for helpers. I had a bunch of stuff to get done, and I'd figure out how I could use those people to get what I need to get out the door. That wasn't the best approach. I should have been thinking through the through what I want us to be as a business and sell earlier on. I had to pay the bills first, so that was kind of my first hurdle to overcome.
So, as in our role at Patrick Accounting and Works, where we support small businesses, they figure this stuff out. One of those areas that a younger startup or founder is going to go through at some point is I now have to actually account for all of this stuff that's happening. What are some of the early days mistakes that you made in the finance, accounting, the whole back office of your business?
I mean, the first two things that come right to mind for me is I didn't differentiate, even though I had a business checkbook, I didn't differentiate between the business checkbook and my personal checkbook. I think I'm a very typical business owner there. Um, I didn't set up any kind of systems to fix a budget on the personal side and the business side. It was kind of all one thing, which means it took me 15 years, probably 10 plus years before I really started thinking of the two as separate. That is a big limitation in my ability to know really how the business was doing, how the work that we were selling was it profitable as much as I thought it was. I had commingled that stuff so bad, and that's a typical owner. I mean, I think that's just me being a typical owner there, not me being an accountant. Um, you know, it's been a long time. It was a long time before I took a regular check. I mean, not even a check, but a regular draw against earnings. It was kind of as I needed it personally, which was a limiting factor in my budgeting at home, all that kind of stuff. I think that was my biggest mistake. Setting money aside for taxes, having a rhythm there early on of, yeah, but I need that money now. I'm going to spend it now and I'll worry about taxes later. That's a very typical owner mentality. And that, that bit bites me in the butt, right? It's like, okay, now it's tax time. I've got to come with this money. That's not very good tax planning on my part. And those are the lessons I think we've learned of here's why we believe in the system that we sell today so that you can get yourself out of those rhythms and not, and, create a little better sleeping at night. I can tell you my wife is a lot happier now than it was early on with, hey, we owe 40 grand for tax and you have 5 grand saved up. What's going on there? And so that was very scary for her and scary for me. And so I remember back early days going, yeah, but I had no idea we would continue this on, and we had bills to pay at home, and kids started school, and all the things. She's like, I need to pay. I can either pay for private school today for the kids, or I can pay for taxes. And I'm like, well, the private school is due today. Taxes aren't due today, so I'll worry about that later. And that didn't make her very happy. so I think back now and go, yeah, that was some of the early mistakes I made. You know, non-people, non-financial, what I think we did more than anything was I threw tech at or changes to everybody all the time. Um, I knew the systems we had weren't great yet, and I wanted them to be better. And I kept looking for better solutions, which means we kind of changed a bunch of stuff repeatedly. And I didn't get buy-in from if I had 5 people on the team at the time, I was like, we're doing this because what we have is broken. We'll figure it out. And then we'd pick something and go, nope, that doesn't fix my problem. I need to find the next thing. So we went through 3 or 4 practice management software. We went through 3 or 4 hosting companies to host our servers. We went through tax software early on changes, all this stuff and all the tools that we use in our trade. What we had was okay, but not great. And now, budget dictated some of that, obviously, but most of it was just what we were doing wasn't as efficient as I would like it to have been. And I knew it wasn't great, but I didn't know what I was trying to find a better alternative all the time.
Yeah, and your personality is one to jump first and look second. Uh, Now in today's world, now where we're over 40 employees, that hey,
I
we
can't do
just
that anymore.
yeah, it's almost impossible, just simply because the people aren't going to do it.
Yeah,
Because
I
you're like,
mean,
okay,
great. I bought that thing. I can just waste the money and have all the subscriptions turned on that no one logs into.
yeah,
I will say now, the process to change is a lot broader. So if I was a dental office and I had 15 or 20 people, and I need to change my medical record, solution or get a new piece of equipment, I've got to get buy-in there. Early on, when it's like four or five of you, like what we have sucks. We need something different. Let's look and find, and then you finally go, nope, that sucks too. Let's go to the next one.
Yeah, that's just part of
And then,
casting
and
vision.
the change for five people is not like awful.
Yeah. Yeah, that's you just got to be able to cast a vision and get people on board, and then it's a different story. People, it's oftentimes said that people don't like change, and that's not true. People do like change as long as they believe that that change is going to be better for them. Like if we came out tomorrow and said, hey, you know what, for all of 2025, we're going to give everybody free lunch every single day in the office. That's a change. We don't do that today. People aren't going to
Yeah,
be like, "Oh, that sucks. I'm going to not like that." Well, no, that's a good thing, and so people like the good change.
yeah, yeah,
Oftentimes, we fail to actually give them a compelling reason, a vision of why we're making this change, and that is something that happened pretty frequently in the early days here, and it's something that is really that's hard. It's hard to pull off making changes without casting vision in today's world.
yeah. And I think when we're thinking about changes now, or even like looking back at mistakes we've made, this is still one that can be made. We look about our journey with Impact and the marketing stuff we did. It's getting everybody to see that vision before we do it, not like I'm there already, let's go, and I'm going to pull them along with me. I probably need to think about that as going, all right, we're going to have that conversation about why we're looking to make these changes long term. And I think about kind of technology. If I were to explain that and said, hey guys, the solution we have sucks, right? Yeah, they all agree. All right, I'm exploring a couple options. This is what I think is the next best thing. You guys agree with that? Yes, let's go ahead and move forward to that. That would have probably taken a lot of stress from them. I didn't do that.
Yeah.
That's me being a bad owner.
Yeah, one other thing to that too, though. I think that the quicker we're able to pull others into that change, whatever it is, not only do we get better buy-in, but we get better end result with that change is actually better.
Yep.
Software. This is easy to see. If we're bringing in a brand new software, getting more people that are actually used to using the thing that that software is going to provide is going to give us better feedback to know what's good, what's bad about this actual new shiny toy that we're playing with.
For sure. And I think about today as we're still trying to look at things to improve, you know, this goes back to a lot of those early things, which is, hey, we're beating up our onboarding process of how we bring clients on board. How can we make that more efficient and a better experience for the customer and easier for us? On technology side, if we're rolling out Count, which we've been doing for a couple of years now, and the communication there isn't as good as we want it to be, what do we need to do to improve that? Or do we need to talk to the vendor? Do we need to educate our clients, our customer better on how to utilize the tool better? Um, I think all this goes back to it's never perfect and there's 1,000 things to work on. And so knowing what drives true results of changes, I'm not changing for changing's sake. I'm not looking to save $5. I'm not looking at a solution it maybe saves me, $1,000 a year, but it drives us a lot more inefficient. There's got to be a reason why we're changing. And it's not usually money related. It can be money related if it's dramatic, but usually you're not talking about dramatic changes, tool to tool or stuff like that. I mean, I think about how our people processes have improved. We had a problem with retention, and we had a problem with finding the people that we wanted on the team long term, and we were having some inconsistent results with our hiring. So we went down that process of, okay, let's look at that process, how we've been doing it, and fix it. And I think that's part of this same evolution. Same thing, this whole one step better. There's always going to be another step to take, always.
Yeah, it's a never-ending journey. I think that's a good point because looking back, there's always things that you can point at that are bad, but there's also a lot of stuff that you can point at that is so much better today than it was then. I mean, almost everything is
Oh yeah.
probably better today than it was then. When you think about that, what are some of the lessons that you learned that have the biggest gap between how bad it was back then and how good it is today?
Um, Hiring today is light years better than it was. We have a consistent methodology by which we go through 100% of the time to find really good people on our team that we can grow and develop and use their strengths. Um, and and our team has never been better than it is right now. Also, I would say, I think about client acceptance. We are tried and true trying to find customers today that fit. But what we can do really well and help them succeed, when we see a mismatch, we're really quick to step away now, which I think in the past would be like, yeah, but they're a jerk, but the work's easy. Or, yeah, I'm not going to drive a lot of value here, but they needed this done and I can do it. And
Yeah.
we don't do that today. And that's been a lot better. I think we do a lot better job today in thinking through the development of our people more than just trying to get the work done. We really do a good job, I think, of what development does each person in our team need to have to get them to where they're most successful. And we didn't, obviously I didn't do that early on. It was just I need work done.
Yeah, those are really good stuff. That's really good stuff because I agree with you. Those things are very different now than they were even 5 years ago, much less
Mm-hmm.
20 years ago. And those are the things that anybody that's starting a small business or that is operating a small business have probably struggled through at some point in their journey. And if they haven't yet, they will, because
Yeah.
hiring is a
I
big
mean,
deal to get right.
yeah, hiring is huge. I mean, you're only as good as your weakest people. Um, and then I think, our clients, what I see more than anything is they're not strategic with their hiring. It's a lot of times out of desperation. They haven't really thought through how to drive efficiencies in their business so that they can they're not forward thinking enough, I guess, is they're not trying to improve their business enough, with proactive small steps of improvement every day. Like, I think that's part of it.
Yeah, easy to get lost in the weeds, then scale back and see the big picture sometimes. Definitely.
Yeah, and we've talked about this a lot. This idea of gap in the game for me, though, as an owner who is constantly trying to get forward, it feels like I never get to the goal line. I'm running down the field, and I feel like the goal line keeps moving on me. When you first brought this topic up to me, which was the idea of looking back and mistakes made and hindsight, I felt immediately like I should use more hindsight to make sure I feel like we've accomplished something. It's the same to the gap in the game logic there. It's like this time of year is a year of, we're end of the year, beginning of the year, you start to reflect on where you were and where you were trying to go. You need to make sure you're celebrating those improvements you did make, even if they're small, because it is easy to feel like I'm never winning. And so, looking back in hindsight isn't always a negative.
I, I would say looking back in hindsight is never a negative.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe I misheard that. Um, yeah,
Mm.
yeah. As you start to think about going forward, what are some of your goals for 2025?
Um, our big goals are a lot around people. I want to see the development of our team continuing to flourish. I would love to see the development of certain people in our organization taking on leadership roles. We've been very blessed the last few years with some really good hires, seeing their progress. I love what we did in 24 related to really getting to ask the right questions when we're talking to new prospective clients, customers, so that we can make sure we're delivering on the right things for them at the right time. And I love what we're doing with, making sure we paint the picture of what success can look like if they go through the right processes so they can run great businesses. I think we're on the right track there. Um, you know, our leaders we've been together as leadership team now, almost all of us for 4 or 5 years. We added Casey to the leadership team in 24. That's been a great addition. I think our accounting and payroll teams have developed tremendously over the last 12 to 18 months. I just want to keep seeing that progress. There's a lot going on with technology now, with AI and automation and all that kind of stuff. So making sure we're staying abreast of that is also a big goal of 2025 as well.
It's a lot of good stuff. A lot of really good stuff. Matt, it's been fun talking with you, catching up, hearing a little bit about the past 20 years. Thank you for sharing. And for everybody listening, I appreciate you tuning into us. I would love for you to click that like button, subscribe, make sure you don't ever miss another episode of the One Step Better Business podcast. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.